Jurgen Klopp said of Thiago Alcantara, "If I had known what type of player you are, I would have signed you 4 years earlier." And yet some Liverpool fans still think that he's a luxury player. Gaurav, why do you think that's the case?
I think people look at Thiago, might I add, incorrectly, in my opinion. And they see a player who has a silky touch, always knows what's around him, and can pass the ball to either foot in space or right on a dime anywhere on the pitch. And they think that's a luxury player. That's a attacking flair sort of player. Because of the way he plays the game, people view Thiago as a luxury player. But if you actually look at his underlying stats, in terms of defensive work, ball recoveries, interceptions, he's actually been our best midfielder this season as well. So he has that industry. He has that mentality to press. He has that ability. It's just a question of you don't get to see that very often in in this Liverpool team, especially this season. But throughout all of his seasons with the club, he's gotten to be a better tackler. His ball recoveries have gotten up. His pressing actions have gone up. His interceptions have gone up steadily. So I think the fact that he's a luxury player is kind of more of a internet viewing bias if you've only watched his highlights. And if you're watching his YouTube highlights, that's what you're going to see. But really, he's pretty industrious and he does the hard yards, he does the hard work. And on top of that, he creates a lot of chances in spaces.
So I think Thiago came in 2020, and Liverpool had been very, very successful by that point, winning the league title by that point and Champions League the previous year before. So they were always known as the heavy metal side, constant pressing. No, I wouldn't say they didn't have creativity in midfield, but a lot of their chances came from either quick pressing to win the ball back, get it out to the wings and cross it in, or just, your awesome front line. So, do you think Thiago changed the dynamic when he came on board?
Um, I think Thiago changed one of he changed a singular part of that dynamic. The initial ball like action that we used to have after winning the ball was to look for the front three. If we couldn't find them, then put the ball out wide, give it to Robertson or Trent, and get a cross in early, like you said. What now happens when Thiago joins the team is that centrally you have an amazing option that you don't have to go out wide necessarily. So you can look centrally first, and then he can look to find a pass if need be, or he can push the ball out wide. I think in terms of the heavy metal football, that was starting to decline towards the second half of last season, anyways, even while we were competing for all those trophies. So the
Hmm.
pressing actions in total were going down per 90 minutes as a team. When that
Okay.
starts happening, the ball recoveries go down per 90. All of that stuff goes down per 90. The chances that you're creating per 90 from these aggressive pressing actions. So I think Thiago may have changed one or two small parts of it, or maybe made that machine a little bit more efficient because he's a much better passer than Henderson or Fabinho are. So when that ball is being won in midfield, you're very likely to get a key pass or a chance created off of Thiago's feet than you are off of Fabinho's feet. So he might have made that system a little bit better, but I don't think he's the reason that we're not playing that football anymore.
So I think look, a lot of people come up with quotes about Thiago. Personally, I think he's one of the finest midfielders of his generation, and Thierry Henry, the finest player the Premier League has ever seen, up until this point, compared him to his favorite Premier League player. He said he's like Paul Scholes. He's just ahead in his head. He sees things that others can't. And that was, for me, was very evident in the latter half of last season when you finally had your favorite midfield trio that you've been after, the Henderson, Fabinho, and Thiago. I think that was a masterclass in the second half of last season. But this season, do you think that this season, because he doesn't have that same three, or you need to freshen up that midfield, would you rather think that he's either a luxury player, or do you think he's someone you should build your side around?
I don't think I think age prevents you from building a side around him. But I think if Klopp is looking at that midfield and he's thinking, all right, Keita probably going to get rid of him, Oxlade-Chamberlain probably going to get rid of him, Milner you might give another year's contract because he can deputize in like right back, left back, and central mid, and he's a good influence on the squad. You're looking at Henderson and Fabinho, and you're thinking, I would rather have these guys come on as cover to shore up games than
Hmm.
actually like dominate games from start to end. You're then looking at Thiago as basically the mainstay in that midfield three that you can trust, that has the system, that understands the system, understands what's required of him on the press, and can bed in newer midfielders. You don't want a midfield that has
Hmm.
Thiago, Curtis Jones, and Harvey Elliott. That's not going to work. But Thiago
That was an
and
awful midfield. That was an awful
that's
midfield.
it's fucking awful midfield. But like, if you wanted to have Thiago alongside, if we get Bellingham, or if we get like a CDM to back up Fabinho, that midfield works. So I think Thiago, you can't exactly build your side around him for the next 5 to 10 years, but you can build the identity of that midfield around Thiago.
All right, look, you're one of the few Liverpool fans who have this sort of view. I think an appreciation for what Thiago does to the entire side, and he's one of those players, in my personal opinion, that if you understand how he plays football, or you can see that, you will understand football more generally as a whole. I think he controls the entire game. I think he's one of the finest players of his generation. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, do you think Thiago is wasted at Liverpool? And if so, why shouldn't he be signed at Man United? Because I would love to have him there. Like and subscribe, guys. It would go a long way. Please support me in getting Thiago to Man United, and we'll see you guys next time. Cheers.